Okay, so this video is about simplifying powers of I. So we know our basic piece of information, which is that I is equal to the square root of minus 1. And as we mentioned previously, that means that I squared is equal to minus 1. If you've got I cubed, let's see what happens. That means you've got root of minus 1 by root of minus 1 by root of minus 1. And of course, two of those together, when multiplied, are going to give you minus 1. So we've got minus 1 times root minus 1, which of course is just going to be minus 1i, because root of minus 1 is equal to I. I to the power of 4 is equal to, now I'm not going to write it out this much every single time, but just to give us an idea of what's going on. So I've got root minus 1 by itself 4 times, but of course every pair is going to give me a minus 1. So what I've really got now is minus 1 by minus 1, and that's equal to 1. So if you think about it, what I'm really doing is I'm looking to see how many pairs I have within it. So say, for example, let's go up by a fair amount there in the pairs. Let's say I've got I to the power of 10. Now, that means since 10 is 5 by 2, I've got 5 pairs of root minus 1. So what I've really got in this scenario is I've got 5 lots of I squared. So I'll take my hand out of the way so you can see that. So that's going to be I squared to the power of 5 using our rules of indices. But of course, I know that I squared is just minus 1. So I can replace that with minus 1 to the power of 5. And then I evaluate that, and that's going to be minus 1. But what if it doesn't work out quite so neatly? What, say, for example, if I had I to the power of 11? Well, in this case, I've got 5 pairs of root I, and I've got an extra root I left over. So I've got I squared 5 times that other I. So that is going to be minus 1 to the power of 5 times I. So that's minus 1 times I. I'll do one more example of this. Let's say, for example, I had I to the power of, 31. Okay, so in this scenario, I want to think about how many pairs, how many 2's I have in 31. So I've got 15 pairs. So that's going to be I squared to the power of 15. That's my 15 pairs. That's 30 of my i's taken care of. And then I've got, of course, that other 1 I. So multiply by I to the power of 1. And then, of course, whenever I see the I squared, I can replace it with minus 1. So I've got minus 1 to the power of 15 times I. And don't forget, when you're putting a power on a negative number, if you put an even power on a negative number, you're going to end up with a positive result. But if you put an odd power, I should say, on a negative number, you're going to end up with a negative result. So in this case, I'm going to end up with negative 1 times my I, which is negative 1i. So what if I had I to the power of 36? Well, 2 will go into 36 evenly, and it'll go in 18 times. So I've got 18 pairs of I squareds. And so what I've got there then is negative 1 to the power of 18. And of course, that's an even power on a negative number. So I'm going to end up with a positive result. So my answer there is just 1. What if I had I to the power of 41? Well, I've got 41, 2 will go into that 20 times with 1 left over. So I've got 20 pairs of I squared and that extra I. So that is going to give me minus 1 to the power of 20 times I. Again, just to point out there that an even power on a negative number will give me a positive result. So that's going to give me 1 times I, which is 1i.